Call to order Berlin Finance Committee meeting. Open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your image and voice will be recorded. Miss Julie.
But there are 3 members here, so we have a quorum.
Yeah.
We know the
First thing is-
secretary.
First thing is just to do the minutes. I mean, she's the one that does the minutes, so.
But I've read the
Right.
minutes.
Yes.
So I can make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, do we have a second for the minutes? All right, any corrections, any other discussion?
No.
All right, roll call, Scott, aye.
Heidi, aye.
Cliff, aye.
All right, and it's passed 3-0.
She's coming back.
We just covered the minutes without you, but. All right,
Call the order. I didn't mean to walk out on you.
That's all right. all
The
right,
minutes have been approved.
so we'll get started. Eloise here for the town clerk budget.
Okay, I think the town clerk's was fairly standard. The big thing I have is, we're sending out that much more in postage. And so many that we send out, because every time you go to the RMV, they now automatically make you a voter, even if you are already a voter. So then, but I have to send out. But then I have to send out a document saying, you know, you're a voter. And then people feel compelled to call me back. What is this? Why are you tampering with my voter? And we have a good back and forth, and then they chuckle. But I wanted to talk to the finance committee about getting additional clickers, because I'm on the capital planning committee. And when I look at what the school has requested for capital, I think it's severely, I just don't see where the funds are coming from. I
Okay,
could be
yeah.
wrong, but
Right, well, we knew we had have you had a second meeting with them on the Capitol or just the first? I know we met with them only once in
I
mid-December.
think we had 2. I didn't go to the last one because I had already agreed to babysit and I couldn't leave the grands,
All right, well,
the grades. Rather.
well, we'll see what more they have to say. I mean, they gave us initial thing with, I mean, we know they had a large list of capital items. I'm hopeful that they're looking to spread that out over time and it's not we're trying to clean up things in 1 year type of thing. But we've only had the one meeting.
Well, that's kind of what they were saying, was that they did have some things that they put it in this year, but it really wasn't going to be this year. So they have to figure out what that is, and then we'll know.
Yeah. And of course, I'm sure it starts with us knowing what our free cash number is. So that will help.
Ripple effects,
Yeah.
as well as the superintendent doesn't have the ability to just subtract it. He then has to go back and negotiate that with the school committee. So he might be willing to change the priority of the listing, but whether they will agree to it or not, I do not know.
Right.
But
Okay.
last year, we were able to get 200 additional clickers from Leominster. I would go back there, but we have to be careful because we can't use the same numbers they have.
Right. Yeah, I understood that was a issue that, well, we had 400 or 500
We
overall.
brought 400.
We originally have 400. Right. And I think that's what Krista had indicated at the time when we had the special town meeting was we just couldn't get another town of say 400. We needed a town of with 800 because all the numbering system was like the same, like 1 through 400 and their 1 through 400. You need somebody that had 401 X and up.
Just didn't expect the finance committee to take action, but I wanted to wave the red flag in front of you,
Mhm.
just because at the point of town meeting and the election and everything, things are chaotic. And now is when it's a quiet time and, you
Right.
know, if there are additional questions from you. For the elections, the poll pads and the vote tabulator were not included in that. Because Jim told me that because they weren't in the budget last year, they were paid with ARPA funds. I had to put in a special document. And she's right here, so if I
Yeah.
had a senior moment,
Hang
she
on.
couldn't kick me under the table.
Eloise
But I
requested
also have to
supplemental.
prepare a request for reimbursement through the Office of Local Mandates. And so I am going to ask for a reimbursement.
Which budget are you working on now?
Election she was on.
Sorry, where can you get reimbursement? Eloise?
Department of Local Mandates.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask. The worst
Sure.
they can say is no. And if so, that would be nice.
Okay, so these are the additions of the, which weren't there before, but the, as you said, the tabulator maintenance, programming election, printing the ballots.
Yeah, we'll now have, see, before we could photocopy our ballots, if I expected 300 or 400, but now they want, I think it's 25 cents a ballot, and we'd have to get like 800 to 1,000, even if 400 people show up to vote. That's the downside of using a commercial. And you have to have, you have to pay them maintenance fees.
Right, okay,
And the same goes for poll pads. We haven't used them yet, but they have been purchased.
For those of us who aren't really clear on what a poll pad is, could you
Could you
explain?
turn up the volume just a little?
Yes, for those of us who don't know what poll pads are, could you explain?
It's to help check in people at an election faster. Because the way it is now, you do it manually, and then when we come back to the office, we have to sit there and scan every voter in.
Eloise, is that an iPad?
I think so. But I don't have one of
But
them either, so it's
Worcester-
brand new
Worcester did
technology to
that.
me.
A few years back, and they had to, that whole system had to be.
Yeah. I remember the presentation. I went to the presentation on the voting machine before we purchased it, and they talked about.
A lot of them are done in
Pads.
conjunction with one
Yes,
another.
yeah,
That way the pads are always in sync with how many ballots are actually in the machine being counted.
right. No, I think it's great. I just
Um,
wasn't sure what it was, so I wanted to find out.
The town's not gonna get smaller.
okay, so it's a total about, what, $3,150. And that's, of course, with this coming, actually, this would be, there would only be a town meeting essentially, unless there's some special meeting, right?
Meeting and one town election left in this fiscal year.
Right,
And then next year, we should have 3. You have the town
oh, we'll have
meeting,
the primaries.
and then the state election. It's alternating.
Okay. So really, the only extra cost goes up is the paper, because that would be the extra ballots each time. Otherwise, all the other maintenance costs are just a yearly
Same.
thing. Okay, until they raise prices.
And for the registration, because there's always talk about a special town meeting in the fall, I left a little buffer in there. Because we had to be open the day after Thanksgiving. The rest of the town hall was closed. But we have to have an open voter registration 10 days before a town meeting or an election.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions for me?
Anybody else?
No,
No?
anything that improves the election process is worth the effort.
I think thinking ahead about the quantity of the clickers is a very good idea.
Yeah,
Well, if you wait till the end, you don't have time to order them, to get them, because, you know, we have to double check every battery. It's not hard, it just takes time. Pig,
On the, if I may, through the chair, just, I know last time with the clickers, we lost a handful of them, whether people stuck them in their pocket and walked out the door.
we've lost 3.
All right, so is there any way as the town grows on the poll pads that you can add an extra field? So when I check you in and I hand you the clicker, I know that you have number 162, so when they all get put back together, I can call you?
We do have to put them all back together in order, but the town did not vote. They don't want to know who has what clicker and how they voted.
Yeah, because it can be used
You
for
knew that.
who's voting how.
No, totally forgot, makes sense, all right, never mind.
But I believe I put out a request, because there were 3 numbers and I put them in there on, so that Dee was supposed to put it on Facebook, so that if somebody found it, they don't have to talk to me, they don't have to look at me. Put it in an envelope, throw it in the Dropbox, and we'll call it a day.
Thank you.
I hope to have the census out next week. It's just troublesome.
All right, so looks like you're just postage being your extra big thing that keeps coming up. You have that on the elections part, or where's that was on your regular budget?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, postage, that was, it was on your regular budget, or where was you mentioned all the extra postage, is that on, which one? Which?
Well, I have probably postage in my regular budget for the regular part of my job, which includes dog licenses and then I have voter registration, because when I send out, okay, if you have a family member that moved, we send them out a letter. I can't just take them off the voting rolls. I am required to include a postage paid postcard, basically, and they sign it, date it, then I can take them off, or a death certificate will do. But you know, if you say, hey, my daughter's moved, I can't do that. If they say, if you tell me where, I can send a letter directed to them. I mean, there's an awful lot of follow-up on that.
Where you did this before, did the budget before the postage went up, are you gonna have to increase it, you think? Or do you think it'd be covered?
Well, take it for right now for what it is. If they do a second increase, then all bets are off.
Okay, any other questions on this part? Do we have any other budgets to go through besides the elections and clerk
And the registration.
and the registration?
Didn't really change.
Oh, I did ask for somebody to come in my office. And I would like them to work maybe 8 hours a week. So that we could be open Monday. Our day is, right now it's Tuesday and Thursday, 11 to 2. And if they could work Monday and Wednesday, 11 to 2, we'd have the whole week covered. And I'd still come in 7 to 9 on Wednesday evenings.
Any other questions? No.
Can I
Right.
leave?
Yeah, I think you're all set.
The seat's getting awfully hot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks, Eloise.
Are there going to be any transfer requests today? Okay.
No,
Conservation.
I believe that they are under the weather, so they will not be in tonight.
Whole committee.
I mean.
Well,
they're
whoever's gonna-
scheduled
I
For
know.
8,
I
but
know. All right.
And was the library still?
the library is coming in also.
Do you know when they were scheduled?
8:20.
Okay.
So they just have the part-time wage increase. Is that standard 2% probably on that?
I believe this one it is, let me just go down.
What was your question, Scott? I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh,
Sorry.
the wages are just the standard 2%.
Yeah.
Just the standard 2% COLA increase.
I don't think they haven't gone up much over the course other than in the wages.
Did they have any supplemental requests?
They did not, and as of right now, I don't believe they had any land acquisition that they were looking at or anything like that either. Email. So if you do have any questions, we just need to let them know when they can schedule to come in on another night.
No, the expenses are flat and just the 2% on the salary, so I don't think it's gonna be too many questions.
I
Anybody
wouldn't think so.
have anything that you would want for them?
No, it looks pretty straightforward.
All right. Must be the Massachusetts spelling of conservation.
Did I spell it wrong? Hey, you're the first one to catch that. Good job.
There's no need to have an R in there. It's not being used.
No one pronounces it,
So
so
close.
leave it out.
Why I'm accounting.
As long as the numbers are right.
That's
Jim?
right,
That's-
that's right, that's. all.
Good phonetic spelling.
Mhm. Hey, a kid in
Right.
school wouldn't be points taken off for that, as long as you can phonetically sound it out and people know what you're trying to say.
So, I mean, I don't know if you want to take a look at. The library to see if you have any questions to gather them, but as of right now, she's not scheduled to come in until 8:20.
Hopefully she's early.
Mm. And I guess you,
You showed me before where to find all these.
Oh,
Is it online?
on a different note, can I, because I think we said this, there's Capital is holding off on making any decisions on the requests they have gotten until they get the final free cash number.
Right.
So,
That makes sense.
And unfortunately, I don't have any updates on that situation.
no,
this is.
you're doing what you can do.
We're working as fast as we can. We did get,
Should you go back and take?
the treasurer and myself are tied out through December.
Yeah, so they decided to next meet at the end of February,
Okay,
uh,
so
in the hopes that they
we're
have,
supposed to have all our numbers in by then.
yeah,
so.
but during the meeting last week, as the discussion started, it was just too hard to even figure out how to do a prioritization without having any sense of
Yeah.
how much money they were working on.
I promise you'll get the numbers as soon as we do.
I know you're working.
We're
It's
working
not, I'm not
really
saying,
hard.
I'm not putting, I'm just saying that.
I know,
If
I
anybody
know.
asks like what's going on with capital, that's.
Yeah,
It's going,
unfortunately, it's.
Sorry, what's going on, Ken?
nothing because they need the free cash numbers.
Ah, okay.
We look to see what the part-time wages, why they're going down, are they less people or somebody left and
Wish
lower
I
wage
had
higher?
the knowledge behind it, but I don't at this point. I did not get a chance to take a look at these today. Yeah, so we can't put it. And I can put this one close.
Look at you go.
One moment. There we go.
And you can tell the comparison to last year's.
I will make a note of that and then, well, we can ask her when she gets here.
Yeah, I don't recognize other than the library director. I'm looking at the other names. If anybody's new or not.
Most of them are, we've had for a little bit. I think this is going on Victoria's second year.
Either that or they decreased somebody's hours.
Well, it's only a total increase of 3,735, so
That's actually a decrease, isn't it?
no, total increase.
Total and there's.
Oh,
an
I was
increase
just
at
going
the
by.
Oh, you're just going,
That's-
you're
that's
doing
all
it
I
right,
was-
yeah,
Yeah,
but the total budget is up by a bit.
yeah.
Yeah,
Is there a
wages
description
went-
under other supplies that they have? Do they have additional information for the expenses?
Yeah, what is other?
Yeah, because that's where it went up.
E-contact, that's the big number. Well, they have adult e-contact is a big number. Children e-contact down 3,000. First, you can explain more about that.
Should see if she has any written.
I wonder if that's a membership or something. Seems odd to be that high, but.
And
Looks like
supplement-
she's also asking. Assistant. And full-time service librarian.
Yeah, 19 to 30.
And that's for 11,000. Oh, it's the second
But
one.
she does have to keep it at a minimum as far as to receive state aid. We've also,
Yeah, there's right minimum requirements on the, but
Yeah.
for material costs.
let me know what you might like to look at more.
I see they have a capital request in.
For the door?
I can't read sideways.
One
right now.
moment, please. We can pop it over there. No, I don't hold it.
Helps to download it, then you can,
I know.
it'll let you.
I'm just being lazy.
Building renovations.
Okay, so what's on?
Where do I need to go to? See if there's a little bit more here.
Did I see that the
Okay,
door is almost $50,000?
That's what I
No.
saw. Yeah.
no, I don't think that sounds
Yeah.
right, because they were at capital, I think it was around 20 something. For the capital request, but there was other requests.
Oh,
But they've decided not to do the ADA study.
did they say why?
It turned out that, can't remember they were basically advised that Berlin had already done an ADA study and that was enough information
Okay,
for them to proceed with what they want to do next. They thought they had to do
okay,
a separate ADA study. I mean, that's what I was told.
okay.
But I think the ADA study's been taken out and, they were discussing the numbers. Let me see. Still have the email. But Capital was going to ask them to get 2 more quotes on the door because they thought that the quote they did get said some of the expense was coming from the type of the door.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't like they could just run down to Lowe's and
No.
get a replacement.
I wouldn't imagine. June, is there a requirement for going out to bid on an item over?
I don't know the actual dollar amounts off the top of my head. But I know usually, Kristen becomes involved anything over 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I know she was mentioning 10, but
Yeah. And then it just depends on what type, whether it be just,
Mhm.
3 quotes versus, it goes from verbal quotes to written quotes to, I think, sealed bids if it's
Mhm.
above a certain amount, but I don't know
Yeah,
the threshold.
I vaguely remember it
Yeah,
when I was working in schools. I can't remember.
Hmm.
I assumed that the cost would be elevated because I'm assuming they want to maintain the architectural integrity of the building.
Mm. Well, I think that's one of the things if they didn't.
That's an
repla-
assumption on my part.
Well,
But-
if I'm understanding, part of the thing is they either had to replace the door as is, and that was kind of a custom order for a door, and there's various structural needs because it's a large door. Or they would have to reframe out the door. What do you call it? The entryway. They'd have to do something different there to put in different doors.
Mhm.
That's
So,
the exterior one, Julie.
yeah, so this is what,
the notices and also have to be any changes as far as ADA.
yeah, so from last week's capital, there was a discussion, on, we'd gotten an email for a total request of 21,294 based on one quote that the director had gotten with doing this custom door design. There's but there was a request from Capital that Victoria get 2 more quotes to see if that really was consistent with, because it still seemed high.
And that's just the material,
Well, that's for the whole job, and that's including
labor and material.
and labor at the prevailing wage. And I think they said prevailing wage was $150 an hour.
I'm assuming this is the exterior door, not the
Yeah, the exterior.
interior one. Yeah.
Mm.
any other topics? I mean, do you have anything else to share with us from the capital planning? Anybody else?
No, I got there late, so I missed the discussion around the transfer station. So can't really. I know they have some issues that came up, but.
Who had issues? The transfer station?
The transfer
Or
station
the
beca-
capital?
the transfer station came because they have expenses coming up around the fact that it used to be. I don't want to say this wrong, because I was late, so I didn't understand, but like 50 years plus, I think it was. They actually dumped materials back there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah,
It was-
so,
Yeah, you have it right.
okay, so they are coming back having to do a study or something. And this is where, do you know where the gist of this is? Because I didn't get,
I was-
Yeah, when Paul came to select board, whenever it was, he was contacted by the DEP. They have to do an inspection of the landfill. So the landfill will require, the transfer station will require a recertification of that. So that's about $5,000 that Board of Health thinks that they can cover. But hold on to your party pants, because they're also going to need to do the landfill compliance review. So not only, so where you dump stuff, where the old dump was, and then the dump that exists on Highland, Hudson, that Hudson is kind of over there. That's going to be a little bit more expensive, probably no idea on costs, but Paul had, here, you're more than welcome to that, to pass that around.
Mhm.
The pig, that's the second site you're talking about.
Yep,
Yeah, okay.
yep. So unfortunately, the recertification needs to be done by February. So we're kind of under
Mm.
tight time. So that's where we're hoping that Board of Health can cover
Mhm.
that $5,000. And then for the larger one, where they're going to hire, an engineering company that's all up to date on DEP regs that will be needed every 5 years, because the landfill technically isn't closed. It's not capped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which one isn't both?
the one at the transfer, well,
Well, I know the one at the transfer station is not capped,
Okay,
and I'm not sure about the one in Hudson.
on Gates Pond Road.
Yeah, that's it. Thank
My
you.
neighbor.
Yep, so there
You
might
can come
be
right up.
additional,
I think-
more expensive costs coming
So-
with that.
So if it was the Hudson dump,
No, you're not.
but
You're
it's on
early. We
Berlin
appreciate
land, why is Berlin responsible?
He didn't get into it. He didn't get into it. We're just trying to figure out
I
if we
was
can
afraid you were gonna bring.
somehow cover the,
Mhm.
or they can cover the 5,000 to do the recertification.
I would think, I mean, I'm going out on a limb here, but I would think that Hudson would be responsible for the recertification
Right,
of the land since it was their dump.
right. Or is it because it's residing in Berlin? I don't know. That's more information. We're just hoping to get them through the recertification
Yep.
process so that the dump stays open.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then we will work longer term on the capping and all those inspections. Yeah, so that's where that money,
Wow.
I know, who knew?
Well, I appreciate that it's it's required to inspect the land and make sure all is well.
Yep.
That's a good thing. But is this the first inspection we've had?
It is, unfortunately, it was one of those items that kind of sort of slipped through the crack on Berlin and kind of sort of slipped through the crack on DEP, and now DEP went, hey, what are you doing? So it came up on the radar, so yeah, this is the first.
Thank
The
you for
first
that
bit.
information. I
My
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Yeah, I think,
Mm,
didn't,
yeah.
Paul say something about like during COVID, like nothing was being done? And now they're kind of getting caught up.
Yeah.
In all their inspections. So.
Yep. So more to come on
Yeah. good.
dump costs.
All right, well, we have library here. So we can get started. We've been getting a preview of your budget, so.
Great. It's extensive. Yeah, so one of the biggest changes is our wages. We previously had 4 page positions. 2 of them have been unfilled for a while now. It doesn't make sense for us to have 4 reshelvers essentially, so we're going down to 2. We've had 2, it's working out great, so.
That's the reason for the reduction.
Yeah, that's the reason
Okay.
for the reduction. And then we have to kind of balance that out. So we have our minimum appropriation that we are required to have by the state to be eligible for state aid each year. So I basically start with that. So our minimum appropriation for FY 26 is that $174,172. So I took that minus what I knew we would need for wages, and that's what balances out for our expense budget. So we needed $45,970 to meet that minimum appropriation after the wages, so not much has changed from last year as far as what we're gonna spend, but it does mean a big increase, which is kind of nice, because I can spend it all on e-content, which is the big draw in libraries these days.
That's why you don't have as many pages because it's,
Yeah,
It's
we
electronic.
also, part of what the pages used to do was process all of our physical materials, put the wrappings on the books and all the labels, and we get that done by our vendor now.
Ah.
Saves a lot of time. Get the books on the shelves faster. So that's part of the reason, yeah. Yeah,
What is the e-content mostly like subscriptions you have to pay for? Or?
it is, so if you've ever used the app Libby, it's like ebooks, e-audiobooks. So some of it will go towards databases. We get Newsbank, which is old news articles. We also get BrainFuse, which is a online tutoring platform for high school students. Yeah, most of it is ebooks, which are just kind of absurdly expensive for libraries. For some reason, we pay about $60 for ebooks. So, but everybody likes to use them, and there can be 1,000 people waiting for one title. Yeah, but the price is so restrictive that's why the waits are so long. If anybody uses Libby and is curious why they're waiting 3 months for a book, it's because
I
you
would
can't
have
buy
just
that
thought
many.
the opposite, that it would be.
You would think,
fine.
but yeah.
say Victoria, the periodicals, does that, is that where
Those are the physical magazines that we
it's the
get.
physical magazines? So the online access to newspapers, which I'm aware of and
Mhm.
have used, does that follow under e-content? Is
So
it-
that actually, yes, last year it did. I broke it out into, that's why there's a new line for databases this year.
Ah.
We didn't really have a great way of categorizing that before. So that $2,300 I put for databases, we were already spending that, and I was tracking it in e-content, but I thought it made more sense to break it out on another line for our tracking purposes. It's also one of the ways we report it to the state, because they ask how much money do you spend on databases, so
Okay,
if I can put it in the budget already, it makes it easier for me to.
so I went and got the electronic card through the Boston Public Library, and I don't know if people here are aware of it, but you know how you hit a paywall on the Boston Globe or New York Times, whatever. You, through the Mars system, you have that electronic card, you can log into those newspapers. Is it one day late?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to, somebody sends you a link to an article, you can't click on the link. If you have to be a Massachusetts resident. So this is a benefit for taxpayers in Massachusetts, for residents of Massachusetts, that I don't think is very well known.
No.
Like you ought to have a big banner in front of the library, Victoria. Sorry, but you know,
We'll get it.
But
Yeah.
if that's the money we're spending, that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's unlimited access to all the major newspapers, as I understand it.
Yeah, so the Boston Public Library gets, I forget which newspapers they get access to, but
Oh, whatever's in their collection is available through the Mars to us, through the
Yeah,
having the
it's, yeah,
e-library card.
Boston is the Library of the Commonwealth
Got
as
it.
well, so they, they're bigger and more complicated, so they share a lot of the things with everybody in the state, but yeah, we separately subscribe to Newsbank, which has a lot of archived articles, and also week late or day late or something like that for.
So
local
Newsbank
papers.
is in the other supplies under the data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that covers most of the changes. The other kind of moving around of funds is just as I've spent money this year and looked at where we're actually spending the funds in terms of, spending a little bit less on children's books because they cost a little bit less, and a little bit more on adult books because they cost a little bit more. So,
They're bigger, right?
yeah. Well,
More words.
children's books are hard to estimate because they range from board books to YA books. Adult books are just adult books.
It's a big category.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, anybody have any other questions?
Nope.
Well,
Right.
we were talking a bit about the capital stuff, which isn't really our area, but Julie's liaison over there, so we
Yeah,
got
we're
into it a
good.
bit.
I guess.
You're gonna
that's
get there, am I
supplemental
jumping
request.
ahead, Scott?
I
Yeah,
was gonna say,
Alright.
do you want to hit the supplemental, just
Yeah,
go
hit the
over those
supplemental
quickly, or do
first.
you want
Yeah.
to go to the cap?
Yes, so both of our supplemental requests are for staffing. So this first one is for a second library assistant 3 position. That's our 10-hour week circulation desk staff. Currently, we have 46 hours of desk staff. We have 2 18-hour week positions and 1 10-hour week position. We're open 33 hours a week and we're on 2 floors. So in order to be fully staffed, we really need at least 66 hours of desk staff. So 1 additional 10-hour week position would help us. It helps us get out of the library and into the community more. It helps me go to more regional meetings and state meetings and get my face out there a little bit more and do some advocacy and marketing and things like that.
So if the library is hosting an event over at 1870, you need somebody.
Exactly.
To be at
Yeah,
the
we have
desk
to
at
kind
that
of
person
plan our
out there.
programs right now
Yeah.
around when people can work. If somebody is sick or
Hmm.
wants to take a vacation, which they should be allowed to do,
Hmm.
it gets gets
Mhm.
tight.
We don't like people taking vacations here.
No, I'm gonna walk everybody in the library and we'll live there. Yeah, so that's our first one. And then our other one is to make our current youth services librarian a 30-hour a week position rather than one of those 18-hour week positions. Because again, youth services, 0 to 18, it's a wide range for all the programs she wants to do. She does all the collection development for that age range. It's a lot to do in 18 hours a week. And she's the only one specifically dedicated to be in the children's room, so we don't have anybody in the children's room full-time, which is where we really should have somebody to help out.
Do you have a sense of the traffic that comes and goes? It,
Uh,
you know, like, is it heavily oriented towards youth family stuff? Is it half and half with adults, you know, just around?
Yeah, in terms of the age breakdown, I wouldn't really be able to say. We have started tracking
Mhm.
attendance. We weren't really seriously tracking it before, so I don't have hard numbers. But we have started anecdotally from the time I started. It seems like we've been getting more people in.
Mhm.
If I had to guess, I would say it's probably more families, just
Mhm.
because it's
Mhm.
easier for them to hang out in the children's room and spend time in there. We don't really have a lounge area for adults right now, so they come in, pick up their books and head out.
They go across the street.
Exactly. Yep, Yeah.
Find a comfortable chair. read a book,
exactly.
yeah.
Get the books there. go to the
I
night
just
library.
noticed on the signage out in front that it's typically youth or children programs that I see, because I'm always back and forth.
Yeah, those programs are also, it's easier to do, youth programs in the library, again, because of the space.
Mhm. Mhm.
And Hadley, our youth services librarian, is there, so she's in the room, she can do the programs while she's in the room. If I want to do an adult program, I gotta, again, find some time at
Yeah.
1870 and get out.
Yep.
Well, can you scroll back to what was the increase in hours on the first one? Okay. So one of them is going from 18 or request to go from 18 to 33,
18 to 30.
18 to 30.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and the other one was to
The other
So
one is a
in
new position, well,
new position,
yeah.
how many hours?
10 hours.
That's an extra 2 hours overlap of, I guess the total, because that would be what, 68 hours?
Yeah, so that would bring us to 33, yeah, 68 hours
Okay.
total. If we did both of these. Kind of imagine that 10-hour week position as a kind of floating position, so when Hadley has a program going on, somebody can man the desk or just help out with the chaos of
Mhm.
a handful of children running around a small space all at the same time. It's fun, but it's chaos. Good chaos.
Right, any other questions? All right, next on the, what was it, the capital project?
Yeah, so we're trying to tackle some of the things that have been pointed out in the facilities study. We're trying to do it without duplicating anything that might be done when we talk about a larger renovation project or a new building. But some of the serious things, like our front door is heavy, and I've seen it smack a couple people in the back as they walk in the building. The front walkway is uneven and not accessible. And the retaining wall is crumbling. It doesn't really look very good. And we want to look like we're taking care of our buildings, so.
Is that the wall along Carter Street, not Walnut?
It curves around. It's between the two parking areas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I guess technically, yeah. Harder. And then we're also trying, yeah, the door wasn't in the facility study, but it has been noted for a while now by the facilities department and ourselves. So we're trying to finally have a plan to tackle it.
So the site improvements number
Mhm.
of 36,239 is more than just the front door, it's something else too.
It's the front door and the walkway, the retaining wall, and also there's regrading of the parking area on Walnut Street.
Okay, thank you.
You have the, for community preservation funding, so there's part of it is like something new or how's that
So-
breakdown?
Yeah, it's been, there've been some updates since we submitted this. Community preservation, we were hoping we could kind of spread out where we would get our funding from. We were gonna try to get the door fixed with those funds. The library doesn't qualify for the recreation part of community preservation because we're not outside. We could go the historic route, but then we have to get the building declared a historical site. And we would also, then we have to follow historic building renovation practices, which makes it more expensive. And with the amount of work we have to do, it just doesn't seem prudent to go the more expensive route.
You sure you need a historic designation?
That's what CPA said. I don't think it'd have to be the
Did you-
state. I think the historic.
Did you talk to
society
anybody
here
on
should do it.
historical commission about it?
No,
Because
It's-
I'm, that's not consistent with some other things.
But CPA money is different rules.
Yeah, I understand that it's historical in that category, but with respect to the building needing to be like a listed historic, I don't think that's necessarily the case, but that's why somebody on historical commission might clarify that.
okay, I can reach out, yeah.
Yeah. Because that went through my head before you said it, that gee, I think that's a CPA money thing, but
They
yeah,
did, I mean, I think the way they said it, if I remember correctly, it would just have to be the historic commission just saying, yes, this is a historic site. I don't think we have to go all the way through getting it on the state register.
so I've had a little experience, so if you got a building that's 50 years old, you need to demo it, you need the historical commission to sign off on it, so that seems to be a break point, and that building is 1928.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's historical. By our town definition anyway.
Right.
So,
And we don't have a lot of ancient structures in town. Really not. But so it therefore would be. Look at all of the,
50 years is the line, I can tell you. Because I demoed a building that was
Yeah,
More
well,
than 50 years old and I
I
needed to
think
sign
it's good
on.
advice to talk to the Historical Society anyways. I think that's good advice.
Well, the society and the commission, and make sure it's the commission. That's
Yeah.
the town, arm. Yeah.
It says, basically, it's saying that it's not recreation unless it's outside.
Yeah, it's just outdoor recreation. It's like the
Specifically has to be
fields.
outdoor.
Yeah,
Outdoors, outdoors, right?
yeah, there we go. Both.
You
I
know,
was gonna say, isn't there an inner door too? So it is the outer doors.
Yeah.
That's true.
there's an inner door and an outer door. I think it's outdoors.
No, I just
I'll
find
make that argument. I'll say Mary sent me.
Yeah, tell them that. And
Sure, they'd
they'll
love
go out.
that one day.
They'll go out.
So the feasibility study, that wasn't the ADA then? That was.
It was the ADA, which we have scrapped because turns out the town already did an ADA study. And I didn't realize that until recently. And then the other amount was to test the insulation in the attic.
And so the insulation is 13.
No, sorry, this is the insulation, I believe, was somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000, because I think the ADA study was around 8,000.
Okay, so that number is going down then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No,
I'm good, Scott, thanks. Yeah.
you are, Mary. Good.
No, I'm satisfied. I didn't mean it that way, come on. But thank you, Claire.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be pressing the CPA when they do come in for their projects of, do they know for certain that's a rule of indoors, outdoors? Just seems strange that if you had had a facility and you wanted to put in, basketball hoops, recreation, but it's an indoor building, that's not recreation. That just seems strange.
Hmm.
So I'd like to see their explanations on that and push them.
Mhm.
Because sometimes you just get the answer that people don't want to look into it too hard.
Sure, yeah,
That's good, Victoria, then you can say Scott said instead.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You're off the
I'll
hook,
just
Mary.
assign each one of you a
What
different answer.
about,
Exactly.
Yeah.
what about the indoor basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, maybe there is something that's written in the state. I mean, who knows what kind of crazy rules they
Yeah.
come up with, but I'd like to see that more challenged on, especially its focus was on recreation. It's saying it's indoors is not qualified. Does not seem reasonable, but
And I've said it a couple of times, but I like to keep repeating it. We don't want to do the historic side if we do have to follow those
Yeah.
renovation practices because they get more expensive and
Yeah.
we don't know what we're gonna do.
No, you
with
don't
this
wanna-
building in the long run.
No.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
You don't want to go down that road.
No,
We're
that's,
gonna turn everything stainless steel. We are still gonna try to keep the nice charming look of the building as it is now, but there are some modernization things that have to happen in there to make it
Yeah.
usable. So just like to
Mhm.
put anybody who thinks we're gonna suddenly have an Apple store there, put their minds at ease like that.
Right, any other questions?
I
Yeah,
know
that's it.
that.
And is that everything?
That's all I have, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Can I say you guys have been doing some really great programming.
Well, thank you. We're
Yeah.
trying, yeah. Yeah. We're trying to do what we can. Breathe some new life into there.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Take
care.
care, Victoria.
All right, anything else? That was it?
I
No?
don't have anything else.
Right, anybody else have any other topic? Anything else? Finish off the capping of the dump story there and.
Great way to end the night.
Well, they're in,
All right,
Paul's in, McKellar's in next week, right? Next week.
I forget, I filled it out on the thing, but yeah, it might be next week.
I think transfer station, public health, public health.
Board of Health and Council on Aging here next week. Yeah.
Okay. All right, ready to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.